Welcome to TradeTheNBI.com. This is Jonas Reports for the 16th, back from my holiday. And as we can see, didn't really miss a whole lot of everything. We've stayed well above the ABM. The NBI white here consistently staying well below red. And you're seeing, of course, magenta and that continuing to rise. Though, getting to an excessive spot where last time we were at that stage, had a little bit of a dip. But overall, it's fairly consistent, clean from a shakeout and all that. Everything's continuing to rise cleanly. Nothing to really be either upset about or all that excited. It's not a whole lot of range at this particular stage. It's the dog days. It's what we expect. These dog days in New York. It's been extremely hot in Europe, though, and who knows if that's having an effect. Nobody wants to be doing anything in the heat. NQ, likewise, a little bit more of a bounce back and forth with the NQ, but again, no real threat with white breaking over red or any of those setups. So pretty consistent, though. I would say the shakeout from an NQ standpoint is kind of ugly. It just means that there's distribution taking place along this peak because we're not seeing any significant movement to the upside. So there's a little bit of a divergence from what you would see into the S&P, and that will have to recalibrate and correlate, because if it doesn't, it will create some significant swings as that tries to happen, because it will. The mean reversion is built into it. And from a gold standpoint, people seeing the potential for just a little bit of opportunity on a hyper dip, because the reality is still consumer prices are not skyrocketing much faster than wage or anything else is accumulating, and that's going to have an impact over time in gold. Though, as we've talked about before, there's been a partial switch into cryptocurrencies from some of those gold hedges. I think that's been getting a lot more placeable because it's a little bit easier sometimes than gold can be. From a euro standpoint, again, the eurozone is in disastrous conditions, particularly as they've instituted this green pass thing, and really you can see the effect on how it limits commerce and activity, because just a lot of people aren't participating. And if they spread that to America, and that I think in certain states you already see it. Part of that, though, does help in the sense that it keeps inflation more under control, because you're reducing economic activity in general. Counterside to that is you don't get revenues and you continue to have massive deficit spending, which doesn't seem to be a case. But right now, the idea is if we can absorb the trillions in cash that's already been pumped into the system without having it explode the system, then they've succeeded. The problem is that if you keep printing more, you're really just doing the same thing. So problematic, to say the least. From a Bitcoin standpoint, you can see for the week, pretty clean readings, and even from the dip that took place just a couple of days ago. Base buy configuration, and took off from there. Even if you look at the dailies, pretty clean. Same with Ether. From the last couple of days, the 5K as well, you can see nice moves in both directions, and clearly getting back to our 0% moves, making the spikes back up on the buy signals and repeating. And then we had a pretty clean buy that really took hold there the other day. And that moved all the way into Friday's action, and it was pretty clean. And then it had several positive extremes, and actually should mark them, because as they start out, those are the ones that get filled, and it's exactly what happened. So you can miss a lot of time and things like that, but the market is still going to behave as expected. Right about there was our positive extreme beginning there. We had a couple of others that go a little bit further back. There was the one right here. So I'm going to break down the potential for a little bit lower and mark those as well. But I think in general, everything was pretty well behaved and simplistic from general configuration. So no objections to any of that right now. We're expecting that Probably won't be for another week or so that we start to see some activity going into the prep towards September, because that's usually a traditional time where you start to get some activity as some people begin to return and see if they can find opportunities to exploit. But as always, now that I'm back, we'll be hot and heavy on it and continuing to upgrade MBI and the paint bars. Trade well, and we'll talk to you later.